This is a special report from CBS 11 News.
Afternoon, everybody. Alongside Kaylee O'Kelly, I'm Doug Dunbar. We're interrupting our programming this afternoon for some quick breaking news. Longtime Dallas Cowboy Tony Romo is joining the CBS family, and he, in fact, is about ready to start talking about it live.
And we are looking forward to that. It is official. The Cowboys quarterback is retiring as a player and taking on a new role as CBS Sports lead NFL game analyst. And he sent out this tweet, maybe you saw it a short time ago, saying, quote, "I guess it's time to start dressing up."
Yeah, Tony, not known as one who really wants to get dressed up too
Right.
often, but it looks like time has come. So here's what we know. Starting with the upcoming 2018 season, Romo's going to replace Phil Simms, who's been on network coverage for some 20 years or so. This will be on Sunday afternoons, of course, and then Thursday night football with the #1 team. His new teammates, of course, including Jim Nantz and also Tracy Wolfson.
And Romo is already talking about his future gig. His statement says, when you think about the NFL, two of the most iconic brands are the Dallas Cowboys and CBS Sports. Going from one legendary team to another as I begin the next phase of my career is a dream come true. I have always known that once my playing career was over, I wanted to become a broadcaster. I am ecstatic for the opportunity to work with Jim as I learn the craft and convey to fans my passion for this great game.
So once again, CBS is about to share more about Romo's new role coming up. They're going to have a conference call that's just a few moments away, technically 3 o'clock, so about 5 seconds away, give or take, obviously. We're streaming this as well. If you're in the room watching on television, you say, whoa, I got to jump out and get on the road. We're streaming this on our website as well at cbsdfw.com. And it's interesting because we've all been kind of hanging and waiting, you know, wondering what Jerry Jones is going to do, because he held the keys to the castle, obviously, with Romo's release, if he wanted to go play for another team or not. And the broadcast picture kind of started coming into focus a little bit, what, a week or two ago. We kind of caught wind of it, and we threw out some thoughts on Twitter and on Facebook. What would you think if Tony Romo jumped in there? And Bill Jones, let's bring you into the conversation because I think you probably knew more about this side of the possibility than most anybody else.
You know, talking with a member of the media, Todd Archer, even just a couple of years ago, back really in 2014, he first brought up the possibility that after his playing career is over, Tony Romo would segue right into the CBS broadcast team because he has a very close relationship with Jim Nantz. Let me show you the scene out here just outside the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, as there's already a tribute to Tony Romo here. The number 9 is displayed out here on the video boards in the Plaza area outside the Ford Center. That was just put up this afternoon as we have been on watch here. The Cowboys have released a statement from Jerry Jones and Jason Garrett as well, and in fact they have officially released Tony Romo at the request of Romo himself, who is pursuing the broadcast interest. And of course we find out more about that in a matter of moments here on CBS 11 as he does join the #1 NFL team of Jim Nantz and Tracy Wolfson, as well as the #1 lead analyst, replacing Phil Simms. And CBS apparently will have a role for Phil Simms as well. But going straight from the field to the #1 broadcast team at CBS. That's unusual. Doug and Kaylee, even Troy Aikman, of course, the #1 team at Fox. He had a year or so where he was not on the #1 team before making it to the top of the lineup at Fox. So it's going to be very interesting when Tony Romo calls games on CBS this fall.
It's going to be a steep learning curve, but I think a lot of people, I had a Twitter poll that is up right now at CBS 11 Doug if you want to check it out. But so far, most people have said, we know there's a learning curve, and we're willing to give it to him to hopefully get a great benefit in the end and a good broadcaster.
He will be in great hands. There's already that relationship established, and so much of what we do as broadcasters is about trust.
Sure.
Since that's already established, I think he's going to be pretty good at this. Let's talk about Jerry Jones, because Bill Jones was talking about the statement that was released. We want to share this with you as we wait for this conference call to get underway here. He said, "We wish Tony and his family nothing but the best. As an organization, we did what he asked us to do in terms of his release, and we wanted to do what was ultimately in his best interest and in the best interest of his family." Tony has been a wonderful representative of the Cowboys organization for 14 years, and he left everything he had on the field. He will leave us with many great memories and a legacy of being truly one of the greatest players in Cowboy history. We are thrilled for him and his family that he will be able to continue working as a professional in the game he so dearly loves. He is a young man who is just getting started on a long journey in life. All the best, my friend.
Can we just talk for a second about, the irony in all of this? So when all of this began with Dak Prescott, obviously, and his amazing play early in the season, and then the transition of power, if you will, eerily reminiscent of what happened with Drew Bledsoe, obviously,
Yes.
10 years ago, back in 2006, when Tony took over for Drew, and it was almost this parallel picture that was coming into focus. The one thing I tweeted about a number of times, and you have as well, and it's been in the discussion the whole time, is the class with which Tony Romo handled everything.
I have chills thinking about that day.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning and worth discussing with you, because through all of this, listen, it's pro sports. It's all about money, right? There is a love of the game. There is no question about that. But let's not forget, at the end of the day, this is a huge multi-million-dollar business. And again, Tony Romo handled what could have easily gotten out of control emotionally for anybody. He handled it with grace and class and poise. And for that, I think Tony Romo is going to be remembered on a different level for years to come. Let's listen in. We understand the call is just getting underway. This will be Tony Romo and Sean McManus.
Tony will team with Jim Nantz and Tracy Wilson to call games on Sundays and Thursdays. On the call today is Tony and Sean McManus, the chairman of CBS Sports. We will start with an opening comment from Sean and then get right to questions for both Tony and Sean. Sean?
Thank you, Jen. Thanks, everybody, for joining the call. This is indeed a momentous day at CBS Sports. If my research is correct, Tony becomes only the fifth lead analyst on CBS since the early 1960s. And the list of those analysts reads like a Hall of Fame list, starting with Pat Summerall, who began as an analyst on CBS Sports, to Tom Brookshire, to John Madden, Phil Simms, and now Tony carries on that tradition of an incredibly good analyst on CBS Sports. So what are the attributes that led us to believe Tony was perfect for this role? Well, first of all, he is remarkably articulate. I've had a lot of conversations with him, not just about football, but about life. He has an uncanny way of expressing himself in an amazingly understandable way. He is passionate about the NFL. If you're not passionate about the NFL, you've got no shot of being an NFL athlete. That passion will come through in his commentary. I think it's a real important part of what Tony Romo. He is very likable. You can't teach that. Either you're likable on television or you're not likable on television. And Tony, both in person and on television, is an incredibly likable, welcoming young man. He understands that this is a really hard job. This is not something where you just walk into the booth, turn the microphone on, and start talking. You've got to do your research. You've got to look at hours and hours of game film. You've got to talk to coaches. You've got to talk to current players. The best analysts are often the ones that work the hardest. And Tony understands that much like the dedication that he had when he was playing football, he's got to have the same kind of dedication to this job. He's got a really good sense of humor, doesn't take himself too seriously, which I think is also important. If you're going to last in this business, it's really tough to do so if you've got a big ego and you're lacking a sense of yourself. Tony has that good sense of himself. He's got a good sense of humor, and as I said, doesn't take himself. And finally, I would just say that Tony is really a perceptive young man. We've had long talks, not just about football, but about life and about. He's someone who has his priorities in order, and he's someone who really, I think, has a terrific outlook on life. So if you take all these attributes, and I've only named a few of them, take all these attributes and put them together, I think it leads into being an incredibly good NFL analyst. I'm also excited that I think his style and Jim Nantz's style will fit together perfectly. Couldn't be happier to have the team of Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, and Tracy Wilson. I got a lot of questions in the last hour of when I realized Tony was going to be a lead analyst for somebody. And I really go back to Super Bowl 49 in Phoenix, New England Patriots versus Seattle Seahawks. At the NFL Friday night party, David Burstett and I happened to run into Tony, introduced ourselves. We'd met each other a couple times before. I said to Tony, what do you think about the game? I didn't realize that I was going to get an audition, but Tony, for about 10 minutes, broke down the entire game. What does New England need to do to stop Marshawn Lynch? What should Brady do against that incredibly successful and talented Seahawks secondary? He actually even said he thought that Malcolm Butler was going to make a huge play on the goal line with less than a minute to go. That part is a joke, folks. Sorry, that part's a joke. But the fact that he broke down the game in such an incredibly good way for 10 minutes, I walked away from that conversation and I said to David Burson, someday that man is going to be a lead analyst for somebody. We didn't know that it was going to be CBS, but I had a really strong feeling that he was going to be a lead analyst. We ask our producers when they go out and cover games and have production meetings with the various teams and various players to come back and tell us who they think is going to be a good analyst when they retire from football. Well, for the past 14 years, almost every time somebody has gone out and done an interview or had a sit-down with Tony Romo, they came back and said to us, this guy is really going to be a terrific analyst. Keep your eye on him. So that obviously was an important part of us wanting to sign Tony up. With respect to the timing, you may have some questions on this. We began our conversations in earnest with Tony shortly after the NFL season was over. Those talks heated up in the last couple of weeks, and actually last night we came to a final agreement with Tony moving forward. Before I turn the call over to questions, I want to recognize Phil Simms, who has represented himself and CBS Sports in the most amazing way for almost the last 20 years. He's developed into what I thought was the preeminent analyst in the booth for many years. Excuse me. And can't say enough and can't thank Phil enough for the hard work and the dedication and the performance he's shown CBS Sports. We are in the process of discussing with Phil what his role will be going forward, but I'm hoping that Phil can remain part of the CBS team. So with that, I think I'll turn it back to Jen. And again, I thank you all for being on this call on such short notice. And I can't tell you how excited I am to get this ball rolling. I'll finish with one last thought, actually. People have said to us, boy, you're taking a guy who's coming right from the field into the position as the lead analyst. Isn't that a risk? Well, I think it's a very manageable risk, to be honest with you. I think Tony will be having all sorts of work this summer, whether it's doing practice games, whether it's doing preseason games, whether it's sitting down and looking at film and tape of other analysts and the kind of job that they do. It's going to be a full-time job for Tony really starting this summer. So I think when he goes into the booth, he'll be ready. But I'll be honest with you, will he be better week 6 than he is week 1? Yes, he will be. Will he be better in year 2 than he is in year 1? Yes, I believe he will. But if we didn't have the faith in Tony, and we didn't have the faith in the fact that he can be an outstanding analyst, we wouldn't be taking this risk. And as I said, the risk is very manageable. So with that, Jen, I will turn it back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sean. And Melissa, if you could tell everyone how to signal in, we'll go right to questions.
Thank you. If you would like to ask a question, please signal by pressing *1 on your telephone keypad. That is *1, not #1. If you're using a speakerphone, please make sure your mute function is turned off to allow your signal to reach our equipment. Again, press *1, not #1 to ask a question. And we'll pause for just a moment to allow everyone an opportunity to signal for questions.
We're listening in. So Tony Romo, it is a done deal. And as Sean McManus said from CBS, it was a done deal that was done last night. So this is not even something that, was done a week or two ago or anything like that. He said they'd been in negotiations. Kind of discussions began at the end of the NFL season officially, and nothing came to fruition until literally last night for Tony to join the #1 team.
Oh, it sounds like Romo's talking. Let's listen in.
After a quarterback, what do you think the Texans should do with the quarterback position?
Well, let's just jump right into it. First, I just want to thank CBS and Sean and David and for the amount of time they gave me plenty of freedom in this process to kind of go through, like you just talked about, figuring out if I wanted to play football or go into broadcasting, and it was a very difficult decision. I went back and forth many times, but there were many reasons, basically, that I felt this was the right decision, and it really had nothing to do with the Texans. It had everything to do with CBS and the team that they have, the ability to work alongside of Jim Nantz and just knowing what I wanted to do the next, 15, 20, 30 years. And I just, I really felt as though it was the right decision at this time. And I'm really excited about the new challenge ahead. It's something that I didn't come to this conclusion with. And I think that my wife would tell you that we've had a lot of late nights and time going back and forth on a lot of different things. And it was nice just to have some clarity recently. And I'm excited. It's going to be something that's going to be a great challenge for me. I'm going to have to learn this craft, and I'm going to have to improve quickly. And, that's kind of exciting. The competitive aspect of that gets me, excited to get up and go attack it, and hope that I'm able to make the CBS family proud of their decision.
Well, that being said, what do you think Houston should do at quarterback now?
I would love to pretend that I'm the GM for the Houston Texans, but since I'm not, I'm gonna let you ask him that question. I was just trying to make the best decision possible for me and my family, and obviously Houston was at the top of the list of teams, that I looked at.
Thank you.
We'll next go to Mike Leslie with WSAA TV Dallas.
Tony, as it pertains to the broadcasting business in general, we talked with Daryl Johnston about what a competitive business it is. For you, what pressure do you feel stepping into, right off the bat, a number one role?
I think it's going to be similar pressure, for me, at least the feeling I have right now. It's like a football game. I mean, you're not playing in the game, and I understand that I'll be in the background now as far as, the players in the field are what makes this game go. I understand that. It's not about the rest of us, but my hope is to come out and hopefully make it enjoyable to watch, teach the game a little bit, and, maybe tap into a few things that I can bring that hopefully people can enjoy, and as far as the difficulty coming right in and being a lead analyst, I don't think it's going to be easy. I'm expecting it to be difficult. No different than when I came to the NFL to be a quarterback. But I think that...
Listening in on Tony Romo, CBS Sports' Sean McManus on this conference call as well, but all to relate what we saw unfold via social media a little over an hour ago this afternoon. Tony Romo is going to join the #1 team with Jim Nantz on CBS Sports, be calling NFL football on Sundays and on Thursday nights.
And what was really interesting to me, we're going to get to Bill Jones here in a moment, but all of this really came to light back in Super Bowl 49, the Friday night before the big game. Sean McManus said that Tony was chatting with him, and Tony basically gave him his elevator pitch, so to speak, for 10 minutes, breaking down what he thought would happen in the game. Gave me chills for a moment. Talk about seizing your moment.
Yeah, and Tony has been vocal in saying that this is where he wanted to end up, whether you believed it or not along the way. And he says, I guess it's time to start dressing up. This was the tweet from Tony earlier this afternoon, about 2 o'clock here Central Time. Let's go to Bill Jones out at the Star Complex this afternoon. So, Bill, now a foregone conclusion. He will be joining the broadcast booth. There will be there'll be a sizable learning curve. So far in my Twitter poll, 70% say we're willing to give this guy a shot and roll with it to let him learn.
Yep, and I think Sean McManus would be 100% on that Twitter poll. It is interesting, the story that McManus said about Romo there, and you can tell that for several years this has been the career path, the post-football career path that Romo wanted to take. He follows in the footsteps of not only Troy Aikman following this career path and Dandy Don Meredith, but Roger Staubach even went from playing football to the CBS booth for about 3 years in the early 80s, and going way back to the 60s. The first quarterback the Cowboys ever had, Eddie LeBaron, went from the playing field to the CBS broadcast booth as well. All right. Back in August, Tony Romo, not even Tony Romo thought this would happen, because he was going to be the starting quarterback of a team that he had a lot of confidence in. And then in the third preseason game at Seattle, he goes down with the injury, and that's when the beginning of the end began for Tony Romo. Of course, Dak Prescott taking over, and this will live on in lore, the final touchdown pass of Tony Romo's career. Had a chance to talk with Brad Sham, and he believes Romo is making the right decision for his family and his future.
I think, first of all, his priorities are clearly faith, family, and football. His wife's going to have a baby in August. Families are here. You really want to be either uprooting that family to another city for 2 years or leaving them for 8 months of the year. That's not who he is. And he probably would have done it absent a different opportunity. But if he's got an opportunity like this, there's no guarantee this opportunity is coming back. So you have to take this one. As you and I both know, you got to take that one while it's there.
And what Brad is alluding to there, who knows, a year from now, Peyton Manning may decide he wants to be a broadcaster, and he's got a long-standing relationship with CBS, having played in the AFC. So Tony Romo sees that window of opportunity right now to take that lead analyst job with CBS, and he's going to jump on it. And according to the Cowboys, at least, and according to Tony Romo, he is retiring from football, but there is a little bit of Brett Favre in Romo, too. And you remember how Brett Favre was coming out of retirement. But I think he's got a pretty good job now, Doug and Kaylee.
Yeah, we would agree.
Yeah. Bill Jones at the Star, thanks for the insight. We appreciate it.
Let's also say that he has a coach sitting right there at home with him.
Yes, he
Candace
does.
Romo has a little experience in sports reporting as well. We do have a programming note for you before we go. Because of the breaking news, today's episode of Dr. Phil will air in its entirety tomorrow on our sister station, TXA 21. You can set your DVRs for 11 a.m. Wednesday.
Coverage of Tony Romo's new role continues online, cbsdfw.com, of course, all across our social media feeds, and we'll have more reaction. We'll be talking to you. Get interactive with us. Coming up, CBS 11 News at 4 o'clock. And with that, we'll say welcome to the CBS team, Mr. Romo.
My mom, Hope's grandmother,